This video is going to walk you through downloading and installing Zoom Jeopardy, which is a way that you can get your friends on Zoom, get them to set their virtual background to the color green, and then Zoom Jeopardy will pull their video in, composite them behind the Jeopardy podiums, and you can play full games of Jeopardy over Zoom. It keeps score, there's sound effects, you can do full hosting and all that. And I kind of put this together just because I was feeling tired of the same few rectangles on Zoom and it always looking the same, and just wanted something that felt slightly different in the middle of ye old global pandemic. So, scenes will look like this. You'll have your friends behind the podium. Their names will get written on the podiums in different types of cursive. It tracks their scores. There's like over 1,000 archival games, full games with clues and answers you can load. So we're going to go start to finish on how to install and host and play one of these games. Okay, so no hand waving here. I'm going to start completely from scratch. So I'll just go to mfredrickson.com/Zoom Jeopardy, which is like the main landing page for this, and go to the download and installation section, which tells us we have to have Zoom. I'm not going to go through installing Zoom because it's super straightforward on Mac and Windows. So we need to install TouchDesigner. TouchDesigner is kind of a node-based visual programming interface, and that is what I built Zoom Jeopardy in. And it's free for non-commercial use, which this is. So we just need to download and install that. And then we're going to download this Zoom Jeopardy zip file. It's pretty big because it has all the commercials that you can play during commercial breaks in the game in it. You can download a smaller version that doesn't have the ads down here if you're strapped for bandwidth, but I would prefer this one personally because the ads are pretty funny. Okay, so let's get, and this works on Mac and Windows. So let's first get TouchDesigner downloaded. So we'll go here, derivative TouchDesigner, Windows download, and we'll do that. Okay, so now I got Touch downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and install that. Okay, just click Next. Default installation location's fine. We agree to the terms and conditions. And now it'll install. All right, TouchDesigner is done. I'm not going to launch it for now, but you see we have a desktop shortcut. I'm just going to delete the installer. Okay, next step is we need to download zoomjeopardy.zip. So I'll just click this on the M. Fredrickson site, and we'll download here. Okay, now that I've got that downloaded, I am going to go over to the setup step, so unzip this folder. So I'll just do extract all. Okay, all set, and I'll remove that. So let's look at what we have inside there. So by default, we see just a few files. So inside assets, you don't really have to go in here very much, but this is where all the fonts and images and sound and video live. But out here, zoomjeopardy.toe, T-O-E, that's the TouchDesigner extension. This is the main file you're going to want to open. And then also there's a link to this you can find in the user guide. But we've also got the green screen image that you can send to the other players to set as their Zoom virtual background. Okay. So let's get started by just double-clicking zoomjeopardy.toe, and that should open in TouchDesigner. Okay, so Touch is opening. I uninstalled it to show you the installation process, but I'm not going to get the first-time licensing messages. If you're on a Mac, Touch might also ask you if it can have access to record your screen, which is how it pulls the video in, so just grant it access there. And also, if it's your first time running it, you may have to click the not registered yet link, go to the TouchDesigner website, create a free account, type in your username and password, and then just click create key when the key manager pops up, and it should take you to this screen. If you've got any questions on that, just check out the user guide that's linked off the main M. Fredrickson site. Okay, so now we've basically launched Zoom Jeopardy. So this area up here, which is currently in the standby scene and is showing a variety of beautiful 90s arcade carpet patterns. So this is the area where basically the game gets broadcast. So when you open your Zoom call, you're going to be screen sharing just this rectangular region to all the other players over Zoom. So they'll be watching this screen share, and it'll be basically pulling their video into the scene from their window next to you in the Zoom call. So that's this area. Down here, this is that your players are never going to see this. This is just for you as the host. These are the host controls. So these blue buttons here let you switch the broadcast area to different scenes. So you can show the board. You can show the wide scene with all the players. The host, I'll explain this in a sec. Host for Final Jeopardy. Tight shots of player 1, 2, and 3. And then there are these sound effects buttons down here. So you've got timeout, when players are run out of time to answer. Big applause, medium applause. This one, which is kind of fun to use if something surprising happens. Okay, then up here, you've got the buttons for selecting whether you want to play an archival game, so loading like clues that have actually been on Jeopardy, or a custom one that you wrote. I'll explain that at the very end. Starting a new game. This is how you set up and grab your player video. This goes back to your standby scene. This is what you click if all the players get the clue wrong. This starts a round, and this plays the beginning of the show that introduces the players. This will take you to a commercial break, and this is what you click at the very end of the show. This volume slider will adjust the output volume of all the sound effects and videos and ads that play. And over here, these boxes are where you type in your player names for players 1, 2, and 3. These are just previews for you, so this box will show you the answer to the clue. This shows you what the host's scene looks like and what the player's scenes looks like. And these boxes will hold the players' videos and also have the buttons that you click when they get an answer correct or incorrect. And this is also where you handle wagering and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So in a real game, what you're going to do is you're going to start Zoom, and you're going to screen share this area. So in your zip file, there's this file called vertical fake zoom practice footage.mp4. So I'm going to open that up. So what that is basically, you're going to have all the people who are playing with you go to the URL tinyurl.com/zoombg123, and that's linked in the user guide. And you just have them set their virtual background in Zoom to this green image, right? This one here. And basically, since Zoom will handle replacing their background like that, you'll be screen sharing, and then you'll have your Zoom participant window up like this with your friends. Your video here, you'll have the green background as the host, and then your friends' videos will be here with this screen behind them. So this video is basically just to let you practice setting up, grabbing the video before you're on a real call with a bunch of people, just so you can kind of go fast. So just pretend that we're already on a Zoom call, that we've already gone to the advanced tab in screen sharing on Zoom. Again, that's explained in the user guide, to share just this area. And then we have our participant window up here. So the very first thing we're going to want to do when we're getting started to do a new game is name the players. So I'm going to name this guy Gary, and I'm going to name this lady here Jane McDougall, And then I'm going to select here and name her Judge Quiet. Okay, so now we've got our names. You can see immediately if I go to the play wide, it's used different cursive fonts to write their first names on the different podiums. Also, generally in a real game, I like to keep this on standby during this point because we can do all the setup while our players are just looking at this, which is a lot of fun if you want to not tell people what they're about to do and just tell them to set their background this way and then surprise them when the intro comes on. Get some great reactions when people realize that they've been composited into Jeopardy. Okay, so our first step is to click this blinking grab player video button. So that's going to bring up this panel here. And basically what it's going to let us do is say we're going to keep these videos on this exact part of our screen. So first thing we want to do is set where we're pulling the video from. So down here where it says grab player pixels from, we have this drop down menu. And I am going to, if you're on a Mac, your only option here is going to be full desktop. So you're going to be pulling all the pixels from, this monitor here. All right, I'm going to just set it to grab from my display 1 here. Okay, so once I do that, I should also note that down here, audio output device, if you want the sound from Zoom Jeopardy to go to an audio output other than your system default, you can set that here as well. So I am going to say, so right now we want to set where Calm Gary is on screen. So we will select him here and we'll go to our left crop. You see when I hover over it, it shows us where we're pulling our pixels from. And I'll pull this left slider until we've cropped right up to him there. Then I'll go down to the right slider, pull it to the right, go to the bottom slider and pull it till it's just under him, and then go to the top slider and pull it down like that. So now as long as we keep this window right here, we have correctly got Gary. And you can see if I go up here, he's already composited behind. We can use this size slider to set his general size. I'll make him about that big. And we can use this position to center him. So I'll kind of put him right there. Okay, so now we'll go to Jane McDougall. Whoops. Left, right, bottom, top. Okay, so she looks like she's pretty small, so scale her up a little bit. Okay, great. Now Judge Quiet. Left, right, bottom, top. And I'm leaving a little room in case the player moves. Oh, I get the bottom just right. There we go. And set the size. Great. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to get the host, which is this lovely dancing individual. It's going to be our host today. And okay. Great. So he's all composited in, and we'll set him right about there. Okay. So once you've done this, you're basically all set. As long as you keep this window in the same place, that is where your player video will be pulled from. If you're on a real call, you might want to pin your players to that location so they don't move if people leave or rejoin the Zoom call. Okay, so I'm going to click done. Okay, so our next step is we have definitely set our player names. We've grabbed them. Okay, so now we want to load a game. So I am on JArchive, which means I'm going to be loading an archival game. I can click new game as many times as I want. And you see down here in the answer area, it'll show us when the game's aired. So you can just click this until, if you want to, get recent clues or anything like that. If you're already playing with players that know you're playing Jeopardy and you don't mind, like you're not trying to surprise them, you can switch to the board scene while you do this so you can see what categories you're going to be getting. but I like to be in standby. Okay, so let's do this game from 2006. So that's all loaded now. And so basically at this point, all that's left to do is click the contestant intro button to intro the game. So I'll show you what that looks like.
This is Jeopardy!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jeopardy! Absolutely great players we've got here. In Gary, Jane McDougal, and Judge Quiet. So basically, after it switches to that host scene there, I like to click scene play wide because that's the first time your players are going to see themselves behind the podium, which usually gets a pretty good laugh and is a lot of fun. So I'll just kind of say like, okay, we've got great players here today. Let's go ahead and get started. So you'll see basically every time you click new game, it randomizes and picks somebody to have control of the board at the beginning of the game. And so if the player's name is green, that means they have control of the board and it's their turn to pick clues. So now we can just get started by clicking the start round button. So I'll click that. So we come here and we introduce the categories. You can do that by clicking on the broadcast area or pressing the space bar. So I'm going to press space and tell our players, all right, today we'll deal with Teddy Roosevelt Speaks, Another Word in Thesaurus, On Route 66, Get Your Kicks, Game Show Catchphrases, apropos, and Ethnic Groups. So we'll click there and it shows us the board. And at that point, you can tell Gary that it's his turn to pick. So, okay, Gary, you have control of the board. So let's say Gary says, I'd like On Route 66 for 600. So, okay, Gary, we click that. Clue comes up. Read it. There are 66 books in this version of the Bible, first published in 1611. So you can see the answer down here is the King James Version. I usually like to tell the players that since there's no buzzing in thing, that they can just say something like, "Diddling it," to buzz in. If you got a bunch of other people on the call, you can give somebody the role to tell you as the host who they think buzzed in first. Or if anybody has any ideas for other ways to do buzzing in, I'm all ears. Anyway, let's say that Jane buzzed in and she got it right. She said the King James Version. So we would just click the correct button on Jane. The clue disappears. Jane gets the $600. You can see her name turns green because she now has control of the board, and it automatically switches to the players so we can see their updated scores. So then I'll go, I was going to click the scene board button to go back. Just to show you a shortcut, you can also click anywhere that's not a clue or press the space bar to go between the board and players wide scene, since so much of Jeopardy is going between these two scenes. So tell Jane she has control of the board, and Jane says, okay, I want another word in thesaurus for 800. Click that. In 1978, India stopped exporting this type of monkey to scientific labs around the world. Okay, let's have someone get it wrong. So let's say Judge Quiet buzzes in, and she says orangutan. And we say, no, Judge Quiet, that's wrong. Click incorrect. So you can see now her score is negative 800, but the clue stays up. Let's have Gary get it right. So we click correct on Gary. He now has 800, negative 800 for Judge Quiet, and Gary has control of the board again. Okay, let's try one where nobody can get it. So we'll go back to the board. Gary chooses Teddy Roosevelt for 800. This is in 1904. TR said, "If elected, I shall see to it that every man has this type of deal, no less and no more." The answer is a square deal. So let's say Gary gets it wrong, Jane gets it wrong, and Judge Quiet gets it wrong. It'll automatically play this "everybody was wrong" sound and dismiss the clue. Okay, we'll go back to the board. Calm Gary has control of the board. He chooses Get Your Kicks for 800. In official racing events, this swimming stroke traditionally makes use of the frog kick. Okay, let's say, so sometimes in these archival games, the clue will be like an audio or a visual daily double that we don't have an image for. So this button, all wrong or dismiss, this is here for any reason you want to skip a clue, or nobody gets it, nobody buzzes in, or you just need to get rid of it. You can click that, it'll play that sound and dismiss the clue. Okay, so go back to the board here. Essentially, you can you know everything you need to know to get through the first round now, other than daily doubles. So let's talk about how daily doubles work. So if I hover over the board, when I find the daily double, there's one in the first round. You see this badge will pop up down there. And that's so that if, Calm Gary, who has control of the board, picks game show catchphrases for 800, we can see ahead of time as the host that that's the daily double, so we can do what Alex does. So let's say Gary says, "I'll take game show catchphrases for 8. I can go, "Answer! The daily double!" All right, Gary. So basically, once that pops up, what we want to do is these buttons here appear, and we have to select which player picked the daily double. I could have done that automatically based on who had control of the board, but just in case you weren't following who had control of the board or something like that, I wanted to give you the ability to pick who it was. So it was Gary, so we'll click Gary. So that cuts to a close-up of Gary. It plays this animation in. It's now time for Gary to wager. Normally, he can wager his entire score. In the first round of Jeopardy, if he doesn't have any money, he can wager up to $1,000. There's a link in the user guide to the rules for all this stuff if you want to read over them. But let's assume Gary wagered $1,000. So we type his wager after we ask him into this text field here, and we click the wager button to set his wager, which will also reveal the clue. So we tell Gary his clue is, "I'll take Paul Lind to block." And Gary looks like, he's been around. He probably knows that this is Hollywood Squares. So let's say Gary says, "Oh, well, yeah, it's Hollywood Square. What is Hollywood Squares?" And we say that's correct. We click correct. We get a little applause going. And Gary gets his $1,000 and keeps control of the board. Okay, so at this point, if we were to get halfway through, let me see if I can show you that. We'll just sign a lot of corrects here. What I'm looking for is the commercial break button to start blinking. There we go. So you can see we've exhausted half the clues in the round. That's usually when the show goes to a commercial break and comes back to interview the players, which is a lot of fun. So this blinks here to let you know this is a good time to take a commercial break. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see what happens then.
When it comes to quality, every car company believes it has the ultimate truth.
The color gold.
All right, and we're back. All right, I'm clicking the host button. Let's get to know our contestants here. Calm Gary, I understand that you are a teacher in the northernmost reaches of Canada. Oh, that's right, Alex. We go to player 2. Go to player 3. Judge Quiet, I understand you just won't hear of a noisy courtroom. Is that right? Oh, that's absolutely right. Okay. And then we can go back to the board and continue on. So I'm going to fast forward just through eliminating the rest of the clues so you can see how you transition into the next round. All right, and this is the last clue, so I'll click correct. And that sound means it's the end of the round. We've got Jane McDougal out in front with 5,400, and with that, we'll take a quick commercial break. So at the end of the round, usually I like to take another commercial break, so I'll click that and fast forward through it for you. All right, now that we're back from the commercial break between rounds, we'll click Start Round to start Double Jeopardy. And we'll introduce our clues. Let's speak Russian. I'm clicking Films of the 50s. Press space. European history. Space. Hemingway works in other words. Space. It's on our maps. Notice R in quotation marks. Each correct response will contain the letter R. Hey, muscles. All right. Calm Gary, you've got control of the board. All right. So basically, we'd go through this round exactly like the first round, except you can see there are 2 daily doubles. It looks like it's Hey Muscles for 1,600. And let's see where the other one is. Oh, that's funny. It's also Hey Muscles for 1,200. Okay, so that's where those two are. I'm just going to, again, fast forward, just eliminating all these clues so that you can see how, once we went through this, we would go into Final Jeopardy. All right, and we'll do our last clue of Double Jeopardy. Stop the presses. It's the Russian word for truth. Pravda. Let's give that to Gary. All right, and that sound means it's on to Final Jeopardy. So this is how we do Final Jeopardy. Just like the other rounds, we click the blinking Start Round button. That'll switch to this scene with the host, and we can click or press space to reveal the Final Jeopardy category. Islands. Ooh, good category. So basically, this is when I'll usually tell the players to take out a piece of paper that they can write their wager down and their answer down on. And usually they'll wager during the commercial. And so you go to a commercial break here. So I'll do that by clicking commercial break. And then we'll continue when we get back.
Weekdays at 4:30.
All right, good category here for Final Jeopardy in Islands. Okay, so basically from here, we click or press space to display the clue to the contestants. Read it. Despite landmines dating from 1982, penguins use these islands for mating grounds, being too light to send them off. Good luck. And then we click to start deliberation. Get the lights fade down. We'll zoom in a little bit. And then switch to each player as they wonder and think. So let's see what Calm Gary's up to. Having a real think there at 14,400. Jane McDougal looking pretty confident, and Judge Quiet a bit one note, kind of a one-dimensional character here in Judge Quiet, but let's see. All right. We go first to Calm Gary. So during this stage, the control of the board thing basically tells you which order you should go to the players in, and this kind of respects the Jeopardy rules, which is that you'll go to the player with the least amount of money first. So we'll click select player 1 wager, and it'll go to Gary, and we can see his wager. Let's say Gary wagered it all. So we'll enter that in, click wager, and then we'll ask Gary for his answer. Gary said that the island was Prince Edward Island, which is unfortunately incorrect. So we'll click that, and Gary will lose it all. Oof, tough. Okay, we go now to Jane McDougal, 17,000. Jane also has wagered it all, and she was correct, bringing her to 34,000. Finally, we move to Judge Quiet. That she wagered it all as well. Wow, risky group here today. And was she correct? Yes, she was. So I'm going to click correct on her. That's going to put her in the lead. Actually, I'm going to have her get it incorrect so you can see how it switches. So she's going to get it wrong. That's going to make Jane McDougal the winner. And so you'll see it'll automatically switch to Jane and congratulate her. So we switch to Jane. Some Jeopardy themed confetti comes down. Jane looks like maybe she's been through this before. It does not look particularly excited, but that's okay. Great champion in Jane McDougal here today. So you can tell your players they did a good job over this unthinkably lengthy applause. And at any time you choose, you can click the end credits button, which will end the show. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's now that I generally like to stop screen sharing on Zoom. So that's it. That takes you through an entire game. So we've just got a couple more things to cover here. I'm going to teach you how to write your own custom clues and answers so you can make a round of your own, which can be a lot of fun to do, like for a friend's birthday or for like a family reunion or a work thing. Can be super fun to make up a Jeopardy round about someone or about a team or about anything you want. And then also maybe I'll just show you a few more tips about the interface here real quick. So let's just go back to the board and load up another new game. That looks pretty good. So we have a totally new game. Everything's reset here now. So just a couple things. So on my keyboard, I'm going to press the tilde key next to the 1. And that's going to switch to the player's wide scene. These are just some shortcuts. You can press the number 1 to go to player 1's close-up. 2 for player 2. 3 for player 3. You can hit 4 to show the board. I'm going to go back to 3 and also hit the B key. The B key also goes to the board. I'm going to press 5 to go to the host or press H to go to the host. So those are just shortcuts if you don't want to be clicking on the interface a lot during the game. And of course, there's the other one we talked about, which is if you're on the board, you can press space to toggle between players wide and the board. Okay, we already talked about sound. Oh yeah, just a tip that if you want to play this with more than 3 players, you can just have one representative be at the podium. And people could be in a Slack room or on a group text or however you want, trying to come up with their answers together. And like they could have a team that has a representative at the podium. So that can be a way to play this with more than 3 people if you want to. I've also played it sometimes with fewer than 3 people where I use one of these stock footage folks as a contestant, which can be kind of funny as well. Oh yeah, so just a tip, the ad breaks, if we go into Zoom Jeopardy and we go into assets, video, advertisements. So these 7 ads come with Zoom Jeopardy, considering if, so long as you downloaded the full version, the large file on the site. You can put your own 720p H.264 encoded 16:9 aspect ratio files in here, and they'll be, you could delete all these ones if you want, and basically Zoom Jeopardy just gets a big list of whatever video files are in this folder and randomizes them at the beginning of a game and plays them. So if you want to have your own ads, you can put those in here. I mentioned that if you go to the Wikipedia page for Jeopardy, there's a gameplay section if you're the host and you want to kind of bone up on the rules. Let's see. I think that is it for tips that I can think of. Now, I guess one more is that if you ever accidentally hit escape or hit escape on purpose, you'll see that you will exit the TouchDesigner, the Zoom Jeopardy UI, and we'll see the full TouchDesigner interface. And so if you did this by accident, you can either press the F1 key or click this button up here that looks like a little portrait in the top left to go back into performance mode, which is the general mode that shows you the interface. However, you actually have to do this intentionally if you want to edit a custom game. So this looks a little intimidating, but if you haven't done it before, but it's not too bad. So basically, if you want to make a custom game, first thing you'll do is press escape. So you see this. If you don't see this because you're zoomed in or something, you can press the H key to home all these nodes. There's lots more information about how to handle this and links to tutorials on how to navigate this in the user guide. So I can zoom in and out with my scroll wheel. I can click and drag with my left mouse button to move around. But I'm zooming in. If you don't have a scroll wheel, you can Alt plus right click to zoom in and out. Okay, so basically these tables up here are where you put your custom questions and answers if you want to have your own game. So just think of them like spreadsheets. So there's this is regular Jeopardy, double Jeopardy, and final Jeopardy. And these are questions, answers, and this table tells which clue is the daily double. So basically all I got to do is zoom in and say, okay, category 1 is going to be my buddy Kyle. And we'll want to copy that. I'm just double clicking to enter in here. I'll copy that down here. And we'll say, Kyle made this enormous mistake near, on the pier near the Pacific Ocean. Okay. And then we'll go down to the equivalent cell here and put the answer. Fell in while very, very drunk. Great. Classic Kyle. And then you can see here, basically, we'll make that a daily double by putting true in that cell. You can make as many clues daily doubles as you want. And so let's go ahead and see if that worked. So I'll press F1 to go back to the main interface. I'll switch from JArchive to custom because we want to load a custom game. And then I'll click new game and you can see automatically it loaded my buddy Kyle. We'll start the round. There it is. And we'll go through these. Cool. And we'll click this first clue. Oh, the daily double. Good job, Judge Quiet. She's going to wager a lot. Kyle made this enormous mistake on the pier near the Pacific Ocean. Judge Quiet knows because she had to adjudicate that, and Kyle was found very guilty. Fell in while very drunk. Correct. Oh my goodness. So much money for Judge Quiet. I hope she'll put it towards tort reform or other judicial measures that we can all agree on. But anyway, that's basically it for custom games. The only other thing is you'll want to save this file, and these will get saved with the file, so they'll get loaded next time. So this is, you can edit for Double Jeopardy. If you delete everything out of these except for the categories and the denominations, it will skip this round. And you could clear this one out or this one out, depending on how you want to do it. But since it can take a long time to write a custom game, if you want to only have like a single round game for somebody and double Jeopardy, you can clear these out and it'll automatically skip them. Or you can fill them all out and it'll do both. It's just based on whether anything's found. So you'll want to clear out all these cells other than the categories and the denominations in all three of the round if you want to skip. For Final Jeopardy, you just edit the category and the clue and the answer, and that'll do it. So that's pretty much it. And then F1 to go back. That's how you do custom games. Oh, I guess we'll do one more thing and just show you Zoom. So let's open Zoom here. We'll create a new meeting. I'll close this for a second. Great. So one thing you might like to do, I have two monitors here, which makes this a little bit easier. But I have found that if you go to settings in Zoom and under general, if you click off use dual monitors, and I think this works even if you have a single monitor, Zoom will pop up a second window to show your participants, which makes it easier for you to resize them and give them a good position where they take up as much as your screen other than the broadcast area as possible. So if I go to share screen here and I go to advanced and I go to portion of screen, I click share sound and optimize for video clip and click share. Then we just want to position that right over the broadcast area, and then basically that'll be sharing just this area to our participants and they won't be able to see anything down here. So that's pretty much how you handle the Zoom stuff. And then you would position your participants here. So one kind of gotcha for that is that once you start sharing screen, you can see if I stop share here, it tends to like move this or change where the participants are displayed on your screen, which can be kind of frustrating. So that's kind of why the standby thing exists. I'll usually share, position the players, and then go to the grab player video thing and then say, okay, well, this time we're going to be pulling in MTF. We'll go to grab player video, MTF. We'll reset that player. In fact, we'll reset all. That resets their crop window. Location. Zoom in here. This isn't really going to look right because there isn't a green background, but that's okay. Technically, your players don't have to do green. If you don't mind the background not being cut out. So there that is, and normally we'd have the rest of them stacked up and it would work that way. Anyway. All right. So that is everything. Hopefully that gives you all you need to know to host a successful Zoom Jeopardy game with your friends. If you do, please send me a video clip or let me know how it goes on Twitter. It's at @mfrederickson. I really kind of just did this because I wanted people to have fun with it and was hoping it would give people something to do when we're having to spend a lot of time indoors. Hopefully that'll be over soon. But in the meantime, I hope you have some fun with this. And if you do, let me know. All right. Good luck and happy Jeopardying.